Can you see my screen?
Yes, sure.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so hi, everyone. My name is Andrea. I study computer science, but I also work as an IT consultant for Deloitte. On the side of that, I also work with metaverse, VR startups to try to build a new iteration of the web. We try to help them transition to Web3 with blockchain technologies. I think you just had a lecture with Massimo and Francesco, so I collaborate with them in this blockchain project. Other than that, yes, I'm very passionate about augmented reality. I live in Brighton, but I moved here 4 years ago from Italy. So yeah, that's a bit of my background. So today's lecture is going to be about augmented reality, specifically for product storytelling. And we're going to see how this can be applied to food marketing and why you should go for augmented reality for your advertisings, basically. So we will start by describing what product storytelling is and specifically how it can be applied to food. We will shortly explain the history of storytelling as well, because this is important to understand why augmented reality could be the next iteration of storytelling. We will briefly try to explain augmented reality technology, compare it to other similar technologies such as virtual reality. And then we will see the current providers as well. And finally, we will look at some stories created in AR, specifically in the food industry. We will see how this AR can be leveraged for marketing and hopefully gain an understanding on how we can do the same. So, as you can see from the screen, you likely heard this marketing saying a lot. You aren't selling the product, you're selling a solution. And this is true. You don't want to make boring presentations where you just explain a product in a cold way. You would like to ideally show a solution to the audience's lives mainly. And there are different ways to achieve that. A technique which is often used could be creating a table such as like this. Now I'm using Amazon Prime as an example, but you can obviously transfer the same concept to the food industry. The reason why I'm using Amazon Prime, you see it later, but what they're doing right here is they're trying to show all their tiers and then explain each feature for each tier and just explain what you get with each tier, right? For example, you get free 2-day shipping with Prime with a monthly subscription and annual subscription, which you don't get with Prime Video. Obviously, this works in many cases. That's why many brands use it. But it comes with certain problems. First of all, there is probably too much information, and it is not really ideal for someone that hasn't decided to buy yet. It's probably ideal for someone that has decided to buy already, but for someone that needs to be caught their attention, it is not really ideal, too much information. It does mention features, it has, but it doesn't mention really the benefits it brings to your life. If you think about it, free 2-day shipping, I mean, it's obviously quite intuitive why it should be beneficial for your life, but it is not directly explained. It's just a feature. And there is no demonstration uses of the product. So it is just telling you the various tiers of Amazon Prime, but it's not really telling you how it's used or how to use Amazon in general. And pretty much related to the first point, there is probably too much time and effort required to analyze the table. So not ideal for people that haven't decided to buy yet, for people that need to be basically sold this product. That's where storytelling comes into play. So storytelling is obviously the act of explaining a concept using a story that allows its learners to have a more meaningful and emotional experience. And this is a very important point, an emotional experience, because it leads to a more efficient learning. Brands use this technique as well to create stories around their products and to better demonstrate the use cases of the product, why you should buy the product, why it would change your life. Actually tells you why and the how of the product. Now, remember the example of Amazon Prime before, the table? I just brought a short clip. Hopefully you can see it. But it's just an advert they created for the COVID pandemic. All right. So the video was basically a marketing campaign by Amazon during the COVID pandemic. And it just showed this young lady that wanted to be a dancer. And because of the pandemic, obviously she couldn't anymore, or at least for that moment. And that's where Amazon comes into play. They bring a solution that sort of donates emotions and allows these dreams to be fulfilled, really. This is obviously a much more immersive experience than the table before. You're likely going to remember this video more than the table you saw before, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I mentioned this table so much that you probably remember this table anyway, but ideally you would try to remember this video more. It creates more emotions. You obviously resonate more with the characters, and so you feel more empathetic. And as I said, it's easier to remember. How is this applied to the food ecosystem? So there is a lot of information you can include about a food product that can be incorporated into a story. Some Examples of this could be, for example, the location and the place of production or consumption of the product, or myths and traditions associated with the area of production. Think about, for example, I don't know, a wine product you would like to market. You can probably talk about, for example, the area it is grown, the myths around that area, or maybe you can explain the family tradition of the producers themselves, or maybe you can talk about the production process, how the wine is collected, it's stored, the production techniques, the production facilities, the quality assurance, which is a very important one, and the certification procedures. You could talk about consumer testimonials. You could, I don't know, you could create a story around sustainability. There's a lot you can talk about, really. An example of this could be New Covent Garden soup. So they're a relatively new brand in this space. So they obviously I don't know if you ever had one, but basically they provide soups of all types, carrots, coriander, tomatoes, you name it. And they've been here for more or less 30 years. So not too long compared to other brands, for example, Heinz. But they managed to sell for, if I'm not wrong, something like 300 million in 2011. So they have a quite successful story. And the way they targeted themselves to the audience is by mainly creating a story around them. New Covent Garden soup, according to them, is not just a soup, but it is really this sort of food product that brings a solution to the people's tiredness or coldness. They used to create basically these adverts. They still create these adverts where people, for example, are tired after work, and the first thing they do is getting a New Covent Garden soup. They feel refreshed, and they feel like the soup is very good, and so their day goes on much better than before. And so that's where the idea of solution comes into play. I'll link this, by the way, this video, this advert of them, but I won't show you now just in the interest of time. But it's just a 1 minute long advertisement where it just shows what I just explained. So these workers working and that need a break and go for a New Covent Garden soup, and they just feel better. Another good example, in my opinion, is Corona. So if you think about it, Corona is very much associated with beaches and relaxation and summer holidays, hot weather. If you think about it, there's no reason to think so other than their marketing campaign. Corona, at the end of the day, is just a beer, right? But they sort of created this story around them, which if you have a Corona in a beach, you're probably better than if not, if that makes sense. And even their slogan, "Find Your Beach," obviously resonates with this. And I think it's a very powerful example of how a story can be created around the product to sort of create emotions and create, I don't know, a certain feeling around a certain product. Any questions so far? All right. So next thing we're going to talk about is history of storytelling. So the various technologies we have used throughout history to tell our stories, and we will end with the latest technology we're using, which is virtual reality and augmented reality. And we will start by going back 30,000 years ago, where storytelling was mainly visual. So they would mainly be paintings in caves during the prehistoric period that would just explain, that would just depict, for example, everyday activities, using homemade weapons or every piece of an inch of animal to survive. For example, these paintings that show the cave drawings told stories about encountering mammoths, lions, rhinos, and it was mainly the only way people could sort of tell a story, other than orally, of course. But when it comes to the first civilization, especially ancient Greeks, where again stories were communicated only orally for thousands of years, and then at a certain point they started using writing language to basically communicate stories in times of sorrow, war, and celebration. And this sort of started a new era of storytelling, which is the written storytelling. Obviously, we've all read a story. We all came across books and novels. So this means that it is probably the primary way people use to tell a story, and it's been for thousands of years. And obviously examples of this, I don't need to name them, but obviously it could be religious texts, writers, any fairy tale, basically everything, books, poems, pretty much everything. So it's been the same for thousands of years until probably in 1826, the photograph was invented. The picture you see below here is actually the first photo ever taken. It's called the view from the window at the Grand. It's from the photograph's inventor Niels von Niepce, and it just pictures the courtyard of the inventor's family in France. Since this invention, stories have started to become more and more visual. Photos started to be integrated with written texts, for example, in newspapers, right? Magazines. And right after that, videos were invented, films were invented, and they were started to be projected in theaters. And this is where companies started to market themselves by leveraging these technologies. They would use their photographs. They would basically be sponsored in films, in cinemas, and then the television was invented. In 1939, the magical box, also known as the television, was invented. The first television broadcast was Franklin D. Roosevelt on NBC. Obviously, at the time, Roosevelt was the president of the United States. Since then, obviously, companies started to use the TV to broadcast their advertisements. And it's a very effective way to do so, because obviously everyone has a TV in their home. It was designed to be like this. And that's why it's a very powerful way to communicate for brands. The first advert was broadcast in 1955. This is a frame of it. It was basically Gibbs SR toothpaste, and it was a 1 minute long advert where they would just show how their toothpaste is used mainly and their features. Video games came into play. The first commercial arcade was created in 1971. It was called Computer Space, produced by Nutting Associates. And this was a new way to tell a story. It was the first time you could actually be inside the story, control a character, and go on adventures and journeys as if they were real. It comes to nowadays where social media means you have access to see everyone's life without actually being there. The internet has created a space for blogs, posting pictures, events that you attend. Social media has become the modern way we tell the stories of our lives, and we pretty much, most of us use it really. And this is brands really leverage social media to basically for their marketing campaigns. In fact, social media is probably the best way to profit for them. Like They just get paid for advertisements on their platforms. So obviously it's a very effective way. Until it comes to probably a very niche technology, extended reality. And by extended reality, of course, I mean an umbrella term which incorporates VR and AR and other similar technologies, which we will explain soon. But basically, it is just a way to create more interactive experience, more immersive experiences, and we will see some examples soon. Now, a final thought about this history. It looks like we circled back from visual storytelling, going through written text, and now it's going back to visual storytelling as a primary technique to tell our stories, which is something really interesting. It looks like, I don't know, human psychology probably learns best by visualizing stuff rather than reading it and imagining it. So yeah, pretty interesting. Any questions? All right, so we will talk about augmented reality finally. The question augmented reality tries to answer is, what would it be like if there was no dividing line between the imaginary world and the real world? Well, augmented reality changes the way someone works, learns, plays, and communicates with people. It is the perfect way to visualize things that would be impossible or inapplicable to see differently. And my question to you is, can you think of any example of AR? Well, I can't see the chat right now, but pop them in the chat maybe. But ideally, you would have come across Pokemon Go, probably. If you remember, in 2016, it became very popular. It combined AR technology, clock, and access to the phone GPS to create this game. If you've never played Pokemon Go, basically it was this game where people had to go around and just try to catch Pokemons that would basically be in a specific location at a specific time for everyone. You would point the phone where your phone tells you the Pokemon is located, and then a 3D animation of the Pokemon would pop up. You just throw the Pokeball, again, all in augmented reality, and you capture the Pokemon. Other examples would be video call filters. You probably started to use video call filters more and more, specifically after the COVID pandemic. This is a very common way to use augmented reality. I know some experiments. Again, I'm just throwing Amazon everywhere, but I know Amazon. I think they opened a hairdresser salon in London, if I'm not wrong, and they use this technology. So the same one used for video call filters, so scanning your face to create 3D animations, to basically let users test their hairstyles before they're actually cut. And you can be pretty much very creative with this. So the definition of augmented reality is a technology that allows the live projection of a natural environment, the reality of which is augmented by the projection of information, but also of virtual persons or spaces designed inside the computer. What this means is it is basically overlaying 3D animation with the real world. So if we look, for example, at the difference between augmented reality and other similar technologies, there is quite a lot of confusion between virtual reality and augmented reality, especially. So virtual reality is, I don't know if you have had the chance to try a VR headset, but basically the idea is that it separates entirely from the real world and it just creates a new one. You don't see the real world, you just see this virtual world, and the user is transported to another location. The location can be computer generated, such as a video game, for example, or it can be a video, 360 degrees video. There are some examples. I don't know if you've ever tried one, but for example, you can record a video of your home, I don't know, whatever, and you can just project it in VR. Augmented reality is slightly different. Augmented reality is basically creating these 3D animations on top of the real world. So you would just add details on top of real world, and it's sort of similar to mixed reality, but I think mixed reality is probably the enhanced version of augmented reality, and it's basically an attempt to create basic visual objects that are intrinsic with the real world. So the difference would mainly be, if I give an example, so with augmented reality, you just, I don't know, scan a QR code and then the animation pops up. But with mixed reality, you basically create, I don't know, these objects, say an object that is under your table, right? You are not able to see it unless you bend and see under the table. If you stand up again and watch, you know, on the surface of the table, you don't see the object anymore. So it's slightly different from augmented reality. It's not just overlaying the reality, it's basically creating these objects that live with the real world. Hopefully that makes sense. We can basically divide augmented reality in two categories. One is markerless AR, and the other one is market-based AR. So markerless AR means you can use basically the location of the phone to project these 3D animations. Pokemon Go is an example of that. So the market-based AR is it doesn't need the location of the device, but it uses scannable items such as QR codes, barcodes, or even your face, for example, as in the case of video call filters, where you would just scan your face and animation would pop up, and that's the main difference. Right now, the main device used to for augmented reality technology is mobile devices. The reason of this is everyone owns a mobile device. Not everyone owns a smart glass or a VR, AR headset. So it is probably much easier to create an AR application compatible with mobile devices rather than not. And this brings us to the next session, which is the current AR players. Let's look at how some companies are trying to bring AR to the next level. So, starting from Meta, ex-Facebook, specifically Oculus. I don't know if you ever heard of Oculus, but it's basically the brand owned by Meta that basically creates AR, VR devices. Among all, Oculus Quest 2. I own one as well. It's pretty good compared to their competitors. Oculus just released a set of interfaces named Presence Platform, which allows to create AR and mixed reality applications. So if you own an Oculus Quest 2, this would probably right now be mostly VR. So as we said before, it would just isolate yourself entirely from the real world, but they just launched this Presence platform, which allows you to create AR and mixed reality applications. Apple has a suite of thousands of AR-enabled devices and AR apps. If you own an iPhone, you own an AR-enabled device as well by Apple. And this makes it the largest AR platform in the world. They're also quite active in producing AR products. An example of this is AR spaces for Apple Clips, or the Apple glasses. So these smart glasses that just show augmented reality through the glasses. Microsoft is also developing its own smart glasses called Microsoft HoloLens. And they are used in manufacturing, engineering, education, and healthcare. And Google is doing the same thing. They're developing Google Glass, where you can do things such as having a video call on Google Meet and allow employees to fulfill customers' orders by scanning items from racks. I don't know if have you seen this demonstration, but basically you could use smart glasses, for example, in manufacturing factories, where employees can basically they already just scan boxes with their scanners, but instead of doing it with their scanners, they do it with smart glasses, so their hands are free and they know where to locate a certain product within the factory, for example, or other stuff. Just know that the destination or the location of the product, where it comes from. You can scan, by the way, these QR codes. This is augmented reality as well. So you can go and see their websites to read more about it. Some startups which are probably more relevant to the food industry. First of all, Groove Jones. So this is a company that produces AR and VR application for advertising. If you ever try to create an ad with VR, these are probably your guys, Groove Jones. Then you have Assembler. If you want to create more simple AR application, AR experiences, you can do it with Assembler for free, with no code involved. And then finally, there's probably the most relevant startup for our use case, which is food products, which is Swigger. So Swigger is an AR platform for the beverage industry that enables brands to virtually link content to their products. You can basically scan the bottle of a Swigger bottle, basically, and see an augmented reality advertising. There's a short video demonstration of this here. I think it's good to watch it. All right. Purchase. Cool. So VR looks very cool until it comes to implementation costs. Right now, these are pretty high. And in fact, implementation costs are considered to be the most common concern. If you want to build a custom app from the ground up with unique features, unique components, you could well hit six-figure range. So it is not really ideal. It is not really accessible yet, but they will probably lower in the future. Second, there's a huge technology skills gap and poor content, which is slowing down the development of AR. There are not too many people that understand this space yet. This is normal because it's a new technology, but there really needs to be more training and education, more developers, more people that know how to leverage AR for their products, because right now it is pretty much at the early stage, and that is probably why we're not seeing it worldwide mainly. And again, this is pretty much related as a new technology. AR still has to mature regulations that can fight the legal and ethical issues surrounding it. I think Google had a problem with that Google Glass a while ago, as the problem with it was mainly how do you know if you're recording someone with the smart glasses, for example, and you are violating his or her privacy. This is just an issue. For example, there are many others. With Pokemon Go, for example, I believe there was a Pokemon inside the church or somewhere like quite not not the best place to locate a Pokemon, and thousands of people invaded that church or whatever it was and started to try to capture that Pokemon. So not ideal. There still needs to be legal considerations around that. And of course, if you're a brand, you probably don't want to create an AR application that eventually will become illegal. So that's why you need more regulations. Okay, any questions? Cool. So we will finally see the stories created with augmented reality, specifically in the food industry. Best example, Coca-Cola. This was part of a campaign. I don't know if you've ever seen these cans, but basically they have a QR code which you can scan, and then a story would pop up, some characters would pop up. Mainly these would be people that don't get along, and then either thanks to Coca-Cola or thanks to sharing the same passions, they start to get along. Either they fall in love or they become friends, and it's just a way for Coca-Cola to create a story around them. So it's basically Coca-Cola is like that product that just joins people. And again, I think we have time enough for this video, so let's see how it's used. Wow. All right, so if there was no audio, sorry, I didn't know that, but you get the idea, I guess. So it was just these 3D characters that would just pop up if you scan the QR code, and then they would start playing together, these sort of things. Hopefully you got the idea. So why would you go for AR storytelling, really? So augmented reality creates these unique digital experiences that blend the best of digital and physical worlds. It does not need any special hardware or software to savor the experience, which means you can basically use your phone to just watch the AR experience. It heightens user engagement. allowing them to interact with the product and create a memorable experience. And it really allows, at least for now, to stand out from the crowd and just differentiate yourself from other competitors. If you show yourself to be an early adopter of such a revolutionizing technology, you probably can achieve more engagement from your audience than others. Which comes to, how do you create a good story in AR? So personal suggestions, there are plenty of stuff to consider, but first of all, focus on user experience. You have a brand new technology at your advantage. AR is very, very niche. And this means you can be as creative as you want. You can basically create unique customer user experiences that have never been created before. So really just try to explore it and have fun with it. You can, for example, just in the case of Coca-Cola, you can scan QR codes on cans, but you can also do it on coupons, vouchers, premium products, gift cards. You can create all the stories you want. Just explore and have fun, I would say. Create strong characters. This is true for every story, especially for product storytelling. The customers really need to feel empathetic with the characters. So leverage AR to create strong characters, because it is a very powerful technology if you want. And whether that's a video or 3D animations, you can actually create stronger characters than with any other technology right now. So focus on that. Finally, I would say that you should probably keep up to date with the industry, because AR is, as we said, is relatively new. It is very niche, especially compared to other forms of storytelling like videos. And so you should probably keep an eye on those startups or those people that use AR for their storytellings and learn from them. You know, very often, in order to be creative, you probably need to watch someone else who is creative and learn from what they're doing. And so just not reinvent the wheel, basically. So what next? I would suggest, if you're interested in this topic, to head over to Assembler, which we mentioned before. They have an online platform for free. You can create your first AR animation there, and maybe try to create a story, try to create whatever experience you would like, and have fun with it. Which comes to the end of this lecture. Is there any question? All right. Okay, I think if there are no questions, or if you have them later, you can probably email me here, cryptoracles@outlook.com. Thank you very much for listening. Oh,
Thank you,
there is a
Andrea.
question. So I just read a question in the chat. Can you smell or
Yes.
taste with AR? This is interesting. So there are a few attempts to create devices that allow you to smell and taste with AR. I saw the other day there's basically this Japanese company that is trying to create a screen where you can which you can lick, and then a taste. You can basically taste a food or anything. And so there are attempts, but it's very hard. Maybe in a few years' time we will be able to, but for now the main concern, is visually. But probably if you had those kind of devices, it would be probably easier to create stories around foods, which would be great. But yeah, any other question? No problem. Okay, I think if there are no more questions, we can probably end the lesson here. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.